Hello, Maverick fans. Welcome to another edition of the Mavpuckcast with Jason.
And John.
Thanks again, as always, for tuning in and listening.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So we should probably start off with our What Are We Drinking segment, right, John?
Yeah, we should. Yes, we should start off with our... Just for those who don't know...
Inside joke.
We already recorded a half an hour of this podcast, and it sounded like we were in an echo chamber. So now we're re-recording, and you guys are going to miss all of the good, juicy details.
It was the best podcast ever.
Oh, it was great. It was awesome. It was fantastic. And now we're going to, it's this weird, freaky thing now where we can't, recreate it because we're both going to be trying to figure oh, where did we go after that?
I was not looking forward to figuring out how to remove that echo chamber.
No, but I will tell you it was really good. We had a lot of really good stuff.
So hopefully the rest of this one
Oh, yeah, I hope it's great. It may be a complete dumpster fire. I have no idea.
Hopefully we're not like UNO and we have a bad game and then a good game, right?
Yeah, right. I
Can they
get it all
the
together?
First recording. All right, so
I'm
you're drinking something.
I'm drinking Frosty Cherry Limeade, and by now I've had half of the bottle. It's really good, and it's red because we're playing the Red Hawks this
I was going to say, and you had a reason why you went with that, and that was
absolutely.
Yep. And so John and I took a stop today to get me something to drink because I hadn't had a chance to, and we were wandering the shelves of the liquor store there and failing to find anything from Ohio.
Right.
So I don't know if Ohio's a dry state or if they don't export.
I don't know.
Or
they seem like
what.
they're surrounded by states that create a lot of alcohol.
Maybe they're just lazy and they don't let anyone else do it.
I don't know.
I don't know.
They just drink it. They don't make it.
Who knows?
Yep.
So we went with something that was a little bit more thematic and from Avery Brewing Company in Colorado, which I've had stuff from Avery, but I have not had this.
Okay.
This is their Go Play IPA because we're going to go play.
We're going to go play
in
Miami. Yep.
And not the Miami you normally think of, the other Miami.
Yeah, did you see that there was this guy who put a score grid graphic that he got from some website on Twitter?
Right. Okay.
And for Miami, rather than having the Red Hawk logo, it had the green and orange U logo.
The U.
And I got to tell you and I would like that road trip.
Oh, if we actually played
Miami?
Miami?
If the Hurricanes, hurricane hockey in this conference. Yeah.
Golf club's coming with me.
Oh, yeah, it'd be great. January, go down to Florida.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We need to make that happen.
Although we didn't make the trip to Arizona. We should have made the trip to Arizona.
In hindsight, we should have. That would have been awesome.
Yeah.
I can't do that, though, because Bridget keeps talking about wanting to move there. And so the minute I move there, she's going to be like, man, that's great.
Okay, the minute you go out to visit, she's not going to want to leave.
Like, we're chucking Nebraska and we're moving down here and starting Sun Devil Puck.
Heck with this, dense fog crud.
We're moving out to the desert.
So for our listeners and stuff that weren't able to make the games this weekend, UNO got a split.
Yep.
Thanks to... We were one bad ref away from sweeping Western Michigan.
Absolutely. We played really well in that series, and you look at the first period both nights,
right?
And they came out and they skated really, really well, and they had a lot of really good opportunities.
Yeah,
I got to be honest with you, I was really impressed.
I think the first period of both nights is probably the two best periods of the weekend,
and maybe two of the best periods of hockey they played all season.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, so the guys did well. They put up a fight. They were down actually. I mean, we had a 2-goal lead that we lost, but
sure.
We were down a goal in the third on Friday, got the equalizer.
Yep.
And then the ref decided he didn't like that and decided to make a very borderline call.
Oh yeah.
Very late in the game. What was it, like a minute 10 left or something?
Oh, yeah. And here's the thing. I know we've talked about this before on previous episodes of the podcast, but the officiating in the NCHC has been a mess this season.
Oh, my God. It is just so bad. And not just for... I mean, it's easy to pick on us because that's the stuff we watch a lot. But I went back and watched because I had heard stuff on Twitter about the Colorado College game, so I went back and watched the Colorado College game, and oh my gosh, it was just terrible.
Yeah, a lot of the Duluth fans were talking about that.
Yeah, the inconsistency, the I'm not going to call this for 19 minutes, and then all of a sudden it's like, yeah, that's a penalty. Since when?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't like the practice of going back and finding penalties that weren't called after the fact.
Yeah, we both have a problem with that. Like, if you don't call it on the ice, you can't go into a box and look at a TV that you say is low resolution.
Oh yeah, they were talking about this on Twitter. Well, the video's not good enough resolution for them to see, and I'm like, why the hell not?
It's like a brand new arena.
We need to do a GoFundMe apparently to, buy them a 4K monitor.
Support the ref's vision.
I don't know.
Oh.
I mean, it's amazing. It's a good thing they didn't try to do this back during the like VHS and beta days. They would have been able to tell anything. There would have been a static line running through the picture, and who knows? I mean, yeah. So
Just the gain, adjust the gain.
You felt their impact on the game, and in my mind, officiating, you shouldn't. There's in the ebb and flow in games, there are going to be calls, there are going to be penalties, but it's felt this season that everything is just slightly off, and obviously that may have to do with the NCAA rule changes that we've talked about before on the podcast. But they're going to have to. Maybe,
it's hard from a fan standpoint to sit here and say what is the issue? Is it the caliber of referees that we have?
Right.
Or is it the league? Is there not enough support coming in?
Sure.
I do appreciate that the league came back and said, because, a lot of this stem from, again, those that weren't there, a lot of this stems from an incident on the ice where a Western Michigan player hit UNO, and I mean, I thought right away that it was contact to the head. And they went back and looked. I mean, they're calling a penalty. They went back and looked and determined that it was only worth 2 minutes.
Right.
And the league stepped in and looked at it afterwards and said, no, he's suspended for the Saturday game.
Right.
And, the trouble with that is that the difference between a 2-minute power play and a 5-minute power play with an ejection is night and day in a game as close as we were in on Friday.
Oh yeah, it's incredibly
and so
impactful.
That decision has a direct effect on the outcome of that game.
Sure.
And then on top of that, like, there were these ticky-tack stuff going the entire Friday game that you weren't calling, and then all of a sudden with a minute left, you decide, hey, let's give Western Michigan a power play and see if they can win. And I mean, I've gone back and looked at it, and I still don't see how you could fault one player or another. I think that the call was clearly embellished. I mean, there was no way that the contact warranted that much of a dive.
Right.
And then on top of that, the UNO defender had every right to be in that space, and it was the Western Michigan player cutting across that resulted in the contact. So I don't know how you can tell the kid that it's your fault he skated into you. Like, I don't have to give up my space on the ice.
Right.
I can't go out of my way to hit him. That's interference. But
sure,
I have every right to be skating here as anyone else does.
Right.
And so we talked about this when I was in Colorado and coaching. We had to as head coaches serve on a committee, and I served 3 years on the officiating committee.
Okay.
And we used to talk, like, we had programs. We'd sit down with the refs at the beginning of the season and say, if you're going to ref, the high school games, here are the things that we expect. Here are the things that we're looking for. And, one of the things we always tell them is, and I know other leagues and other refs have said this. This isn't something that comes from us. It's just, it was a point of emphasis for us that we want you to be fair and not even. If you give one team 5 power plays, you don't have to subsequently give the other team 5 power plays.
Right. If it doesn't warrant it, don't do it. Sure.
Fairness is, if you call it a trip in the first minute of the first period, you call it a trip in the last minute of the last period.
Right.
If you decide that, this level is not it's not a penalty, then it's not a penalty. Don't call it.
Sure.
And obviously we don't have video reviews, so this whole, go back into the box thing where we're like, yeah, that was a Saturday night thing where they cut across the middle and all of a sudden there was this, knee contact
Right.
apparently as he's flailing around like a dead fish on the ice. And magically heals in like 2 minutes.
Yeah, I know, right?
Miracle.
And
they don't call a penalty. I mean, he was down for a while.
That was Dawson DiPietro.
Yeah, and he was down
he's
for a while.
He's back in the game right after that. Yeah, I know.
And he goes, the refs go back into the box, and they were in there a while, searching for something to call, clearly.
Right.
And come out and give a 5-minute major. Granted, UNO was up, and it was later in the game, but I just... That still gets to me. Like, if you don't call it on the ice, you have absolutely no business going into that booth and looking for something.
No, and again, I don't know what you think about a replay, after the fact, like the NCHC did on Friday night. I mean, obviously that favored us because then Passolt was, out for them on Saturday night, so we didn't have to contend with their leading scorer.
Right.
But I still don't know that I like, going back after the fact and changing stuff.
I mean, I think that I think that every penalty should be reviewed by the league. I think you should always look at it and say, was there something there that warrants more?
Okay.
Always deferring to the on ice call.
Right.
So if they say it's checking from behind and it's only 2 minutes, I have to see something in the video that just clearly warrants us stepping in and saying there should be a suspension,
right?
After the fact. So I'm okay with them doing that after the fact.
Right.
I'm not okay with the on ice officials saying, "Hey, we didn't see anything.
Yeah.
Let me go back and look harder, and maybe I can."
Well,
find
and as we
something."
talked about, I didn't see anything, but Andy Murray barked at me on the thing and gave me
Right.
an earful. So now I'm intimidated, and I'm going to go over there just to coddle him,
Yeah.
and see what happened. I think over time, if this keeps going on for too long, over time it's going to hurt the integrity of the game, and it's going to hurt the integrity of play in our particular league, because it can go on for ever. And I think without there being some ramifications, and my concern that this is going to turn into youth hockey eventually, where we don't check anybody.
There's no contact.
There's
yeah.
no contact. It's basically lacrosse on ice, which I know people are going to say there's contact in lacrosse, but
They slash the heck out of those guys.
But understand what I'm saying here. I like good physical hockey. You like good physical hockey. We don't want anybody to get injured, and we don't want to see a rash of concussions, but I think you're potentially hurting the game and turning it into a finesse game.
Yeah, I think we've gone too far to the protect the player side of things, and
Right.
it's time to kind of pull that back a little bit and go back to
Sure.
the days of you have some responsibility. Don't show your back to a check.
Right.
Skate with your head up.
Right.
If I lift my elbow and attempt to make contact with your head, I understand that I should be penalized for that. I absolutely agree with that. You should be penalized
Yep.
for that. But when you're 5 inches taller than a guy and you check him and it just so happens that his head hits you in the shoulder or something, I mean, that's not a penalty. That's a tall player hitting a short player.
Yeah. Like I said, I worry that it's going to make the sport less physical, and that's part of the appeal of the sport to a lot of fans.
Yeah. We don't need to bring in fighting to get some physicality in the game.
Exactly.
So what do you think about this? Because I don't know if you know this, but there's a lot of Canadian leagues. I don't believe it's all of them, but I know that it's almost all of the junior league stuff. There's a zero tolerance policy for coaches talking to the referees during the course of the game.
Oh yeah.
And I know that there's one league that they have both referees go over to the coach and will talk to the coach for 5 minutes at the end of each period.
So it's like it's like court. They have like a sidebar with the,
right
with the
but
judge.
What they wanted to get away from was the barking and the yelling from the
Yeah.
bench at the referees while they're trying to do their job on the ice. And part of me wonders if you didn't start throwing out some of those penalties. I know we've talked about this in prior podcasts.
Yeah.
Start penalizing the coaches for
Sure.
yammering off the benches and get back to a point where the referees control the game instead of being controlled by the coaches.
I think so. I think that's absolutely right. I like that idea.
It'd be interesting, I think.
I don't know that they'll do. I don't know. They probably implement that and screw that up too.
It's a recommendation from the Mavpuckcast. They're not going to agree.
They need to take more recommendations from the Mavpuckcast. Nobody wants to take recommendations from the Mavpuckcast, but they should.
We'd support it.
I know, but I thought this weekend, Evan Wenninger played great again.
Yeah. He continues to have a good,
absolutely,
especially the second half of the season, a good.
Absolutely right.
You know, they didn't let 60 shots on goal like we've had the last few games, so that clearly makes a difference. And it's a little bit easier with a team like Western Michigan. It's not a high shooting team there.
No, and I'll be honest with you. I mean, and we talked about this over the weekend. I didn't think that they were as impressive as some of the teams we've played in the NCHC this season.
Right.
That's just kind of Western Michigan hockey, I guess.
Yeah. Well,
it's not going to look pretty.
There's St. Cloud and there's Duluth, and that's I think talent wise clearly
above everybody else. Yep.
And then you have Western Michigan and Denver.
Sure.
And in my opinion, from what I've seen, I think Denver's a better team.
Right.
And we'll see as the season shakes out. You know, where they end up landing, but right now, from what I've seen, I think that I would put Denver ahead of Western Michigan. But sadly, our guys should have had 2 wins. We should have had a sweep. That would have been
great if they'd had a sweep. Can't cry over spilt milk, but they deserved it. They played really, really well this weekend.
Yeah, they should be proud of themselves, and hopefully they can take that momentum and stuff into the next weekend, into the workouts and stuff, and stay committed, because they're playing good hockey at the right time, and with automatic qualifiers in the conference championships and stuff, you always have a chance to get in.
Right. So I know. So overall, looking at the weekend.
Yes.
And we had talked about this in the previous one, and you posed this to me, so now I'm going to pose it to you.
Since I surprised you with the question in the first one,
it was great. It was so spontaneous. I was totally ready for it too. But if there were one player from UNO for the weekend and one player for Western Michigan for the weekend that you would say, in the case of both teams, was the standout player for the weekend, who would you go with?
Well, I would say that clearly the media's obvious choice for Western Michigan is probably Frank. The hometown kid, we'll say.
Yeah, we were having to wipe up a lot of drool this weekend from the local media.
I just want to point out that we're both transplants from Colorado, and I've lived here just as long as he has. Probably longer, since he's been at Western Michigan now.
Yeah, he moved, according to the Lincoln Journal-Star in 2015, they did a really nice profile on him. Ethan Frank played roller hockey, and that was kind of his game before ice hockey, and he moved from Colorado Springs to Papillion when he was 7 years old. So it's kind of an interesting little tidbit. But anyway, that was the media's angle this weekend. But when you look at Western Michigan, was he the player that stood out on the weekend? He had the game-winning goal on Friday.
He had 2 goals on Friday, including the game winner, and I think he ties the game and he wins the game. So obviously he's an easy pick, but in my opinion and stuff, I don't think you would know who he was outside of looking at the score sheet first. Right. And so I have a hard time saying that he was, an impact player.
Sure.
For me, I think it was Colt Conrad. I
completely agree.
Shift after shift, I was always like, oh God, he's out there. Oh God, he's out there. Please don't let him score.
He's that kind of player for the team. A really good forward. I've been really impressed with him over the last few years. And I would agree with you on that. I think he was the player that was the most impactful this weekend for Western Michigan. He does the work,
and that obviously since we're recording version 2, I know who you're going to say.
We have to pretend. Yeah,
I will let you have your guy, because
I'm going with Taylor Ward.
You're going to go with Ward, and
he had a goal Friday, 3 assists Saturday.
He continues to be a really good player for UNO.
Out of the Pennington V's and the BCHL, he continues to be an impressive player for the Mavs. I've loved him this season.
My pick's going to be Olsen. I think shift in, shift out, he was an impact player.
I'll tell you what, yeah. He was on fire Saturday.
Oh, he had a chip on his shoulder or something. I don't know. Oh,
absolutely.
Like, it was almost that you got that feeling he told the guys in the locker room, like, I'm going to do this without you if you make me do it. You know, and they kind of rallied. It seemed like they rallied around that.
Oh, yeah.
And obviously that line, the Mo line continues to be a producer for UNO. You know, it's 2 of the top scorers in the league.
Yeah, I think it's, don't quote me on this because I'm not looking, but I think Freddie has 30 points. And I think that Morelli has 29 points. I mean, they're right up there, like 1 and 2 in the league. And it's amazing considering how our record's gone this year that we've got 2 of the top scorers in the league. And maybe that speaks to the fact that some of our other lines haven't been as productive.
Right.
And you look to those 2 guys for most of the production. But they have been really, I'll be honest with you, they've been really impressive this season.
Yeah, so I think
and he had a great weekend.
Those are both. And, you know, I hate to leave Morelli off of that because we talk about his line, but he did have a good he had a good series. The play of Olsen, I think, you know, he really was a difference maker this weekend.
I'll tell you what, and just talking about Mason, he's an impressive guy, and I love listening to him in the news conferences. I just think someday if he becomes a head coach, he's going to be great. I mean, the guy is just he's a meat and potatoes kind of guy. He's a plain-spoken guy. I love to hear him give his commentary because I get a lot of really useful information and a lot of interesting tidbits from him. So, great player. Both of those guys have been great. And I think that's been the impressive thing is how, I mean, even that it might not show up in the win column, they've played much better in the second half. And I think, man, if we'd had this team in the first half, I mean, who knows where we would be right now.
Right. Yeah. Consistency is going to be the thing, you know. We've had games where we've kind of been a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde kind of team, right? Like we have a good game Friday or I think the last weekend, you know, we had a bad game Friday, but we had a really good game on Saturday, even when we don't get wins out of it. You know, we need that consistency. We need that.
Absolutely.
We need to go to Miami next. We need to take the gameplay that we did this weekend at Baxter
and take that
on the road.
Take that to
Oxford. That's been our problem this season. You know, our road record is really hurting us right now.
Yeah, we're 1-10-1.
Yeah, that's terrible.
It is. You know, last year, that's the crazy thing. Last year, I believe we were 12-4-2 at home, and we were 5-13 on the road.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at last season, and we finished right at like 500, 17, and something.
Right.
I guess 2. And it was kind of a crazy statistically because you look at last season, if they'd just been slightly better on the road, that would have been an NCAA tournament team. And so this season, you look and we're, 7-6-1 at home, which is not great, but we're a little bit over 500. But you look at that road record was just a little bit better. We've won 1 game, and that was a Saturday game at Western Michigan back in November. We've had, and obviously in, you know, the intervening weeks, we've played a lot of good teams on the road, but it just, for whatever reason, they're not able. And, you know, other than the Denver series, you know, a lot of those series just haven't been close on the road.
Right. We haven't.
Right.
It's strange to me because for years it seemed like we were a better road team than a home team.
Under Dean Blaze, his like last couple seasons, I believe we had better road records than we did at home. And it was everybody was like, man, this team plays great. I mean, you felt pretty confident when you went and watched those Dean Blaze teams play on the road.
And it's interesting because a lot of times teams play better on the road because of the control.
Right.
When you're traveling as a team, the team controls what you eat, when you eat, you know, where you stay, who's together, and things like that. You come back here and, you know, some guys might live on their own, and some of them might have an apartment with guys that they don't room with when they're on the road or something like that. Like
Right.
you always have, there's a little bit different things. They have a little bit more freedom when it comes to
Right.
meals, and the practice schedule is different and that. And so I've known a lot of teams that seem to have done well on the road, because of that. And I've heard coaches, and I'm trying to think if Gabs has said this at any point, but I know that I remember Gwozdecki used to say this all the time. When DU would get into a bit of a slump or something, he'd come out and say, what we really need here is a good road trip. Because he
Right.
knew that, the guys just aren't gelling well. There's not a whole lot of chemistry. If I can get them out where the only people they have to talk to are each other and stuff,
Sure.
you can turn a team around.
Right.
But it just doesn't seem that way with our Mavericks.
It's interesting, and I mean, I believe I heard from somebody. I can't remember if it was Terry Leahy or who it was from, but he had talked about how the road schedule had kind of changed under Gabinet from Dean Blaze, so that they weren't necessarily bussing home right after the Saturday game of the series, and
Right.
they were staying till the next morning and doing some things like that. And again, don't quote me on that, but I'd heard that they were doing that. So you'd think it would be a more restful and amenable schedule for the players.
Right.
But you're right. Sometimes, that's the situation. Sometimes, back in the CCHA days when we flew everywhere, every once in a while, one of those places we'd fly to, we'd have to bus for some reason. And they would end up playing really well after they bus there. And you're like, even though it's that long slog on a bus, and I've gone on some of those trips, there's something about it that just psychologically might help, build camaraderie and do things
Right.
like that. So,
Because we've talked about on the podcast that the chemistry seems to be lacking, and I think that has a lot to do with the reason why we have stints where we can't pass the puck.
right.
A lot of that's just getting a feel for different guys. I think that's the
Sure.
reason why the line combinations have been outside of the Mo line. The line combinations have been juggled and jostled a lot.
Yep.
Is trying to find guys that play well together. I want to see Weiss and Conley and Spinner on a line.
Yes, you do.
Our CWS line. A lot of that's just because I like the idea of what each player brings to that line. Now, what I don't know is, do they like each other? Is there
Is there chemistry
is there a
between them? I
personal
don't know.
issue between two of them or something?
Who knows?
I don't know.
We have no idea.
But coach does, and that's kind of his job is to know those types of things.
Right.
But those road series and stuff, especially when you're on a bus together, you find commonality, you build a camaraderie.
Yeah,
you
they're
start
definitely
to
bonding
develop that
experiences.
relationship.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Believe me, I've gone on road trips with people I can't stand, and by the end of it,
Yeah.
I still can't stand them. But we get along a little bit better.
fans
so
may
there you
not
go.
like it, but I'm kind of hoping that with the number of freshmen that we have coming in, because we're
Right.
losing a lot of seniors, I kind of hope that we have like the first three weeks. The first 3 weeks are just on the road.
Yeah, that would be kind of nice.
I think it would be nice to have that kind of start to the season.
Sure. Absolutely. I think those are nice stints, and there have been some seasons where we've had that where we've only played like one series out of the first 4 or
Right.
5 at home, and the team has actually performed really well during those stints. And
Yeah.
it's good for them, and I think it can sometimes help.
Yeah.
But then then again, you never know. Hopefully they can turn it around though. One road win is, even when you're struggling, that's tough on a season. So
Yeah. But
No, no.
Miami's a good team to start a stretch on, right?
Yeah, they've definitely
Possibly.
been struggling. Oh, absolutely.
So should we move into predictions?
Yes.
Are you ready?
Let's move into predictions.
So we got Miami. We're heading out to the other Miami,
Right,
the lesser Miami.
Miami, Ohio. Now, here's the thing. This is one of those tidbits I learned back in the CCHA days, because if I recall correctly, we might have heard from the athletic director of Miami at one of the Blue Line Club luncheons back in the day. I cannot remember for sure, but I always referred to it as Miami of Ohio. And they would get mad and they would say, no, we're just Miami, Ohio. Which I don't know why they're not Miami of Ohio. But anyway, they're Miami, Ohio. Just in case you were wondering, it's like Ohio State University wants to be called the Ohio State University. So there's a lot of there's a lot of splitting hairs with semantics here with these teams. But yes, we're going out
They
to
can want all they want. I've got words for them.
We're going out to Miami, playing Enrico Blasi. This was a team. We got our first win of the season, if I recall correctly, against Miami back in November.
Here. Mm-hmm.
Here, yeah. So.
Miami's on a bit of a down stretch.
They've been on a slump. Yeah, they looked better in the first half, but they've kind of been, on a slump. They haven't done particularly well.
With our split, they're back to the bottom of the NCAA.
Jason told me that I'm not allowed to pick a Miami sweep this week.
I just said you can't be the pessimist because I'm not okay with being this optimist junk.
Well, here's what I'm going to talk about. There's been a lot of talk this weekend about hometown heroes and that sort of thing. And my hometown heroes are guys from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Minot, North Dakota, Vancouver, Washington.
Mavpuck, Colorado.
That's right. And I will tell you that the guys who come here and wear the crimson and black are my hometown heroes. The guys who have Omaha on the front of the jersey are my hometown heroes. So I'm excited to see them go out to Miami. I'm excited to see them turn around this 1-10-1 road record on the season. And I'm looking forward to seeing them get a sweep of Miami out there in Oxford. And I've been to that arena, and I got to tour that arena. Josh Fenton, who was a grad student at the time, who is now the NCHC commissioner, took our group on that tour. So it's a cool facility, and I'm hoping UNO will turn it around, play the kind of hockey they did this weekend, and make a little bit of a run here towards the NCHC playoffs.
That would be huge.
That would be huge.
We're sitting. I mean, in theory, we'd be 2 points. We could be 2 points back in North Dakota. They're idle.
Absolutely. Yep.
Colorado College has to go to St. Cloud.
Yep.
And so
wait, is this the week Colorado College goes to St. Cloud?
Pretty sure.
Did I?
Yeah.
Did I read
Colorado
that
College
right?
at St. Cloud.
Okay. I didn't know if I read that right or read that wrong or.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if St. Cloud takes care of business at home and sweeps Colorado College, hopefully, we could be sitting in sixth, 2 points back of fifth place.
Right.
With a series to play against North Dakota. Granted, it's in North Dakota, but I mean, you put yourself in a pretty good position.
Look, we've gone. It kind of reminds me of when we played Michigan State in the CCHA days. We had success at Munn Ice Arena, and we've had success since we've been in a conference with North Dakota up there at the Ralph. So the guys have proven that they can play.
So yeah, I would love to see that. Now again, I am not the optimist. So it's hard for me to jump on your bandwagon. Although last week I had to be on the bandwagon.
It worked out. You know what? I'll tell you what. When I was the pessimist last week, we played great hockey. So I'm not sure why we're switching this up this week. But go ahead. You be the pessimist this week.
I'm gonna say.
Are you going for a split?
I'm gonna go for a split. I think Miami's going to look at going, we have to right the ship. And if we're going to, if we're going to get back on a winning track, Omaha is the team at home that we get a chance to do that.
Yes, they have former assistant Peter Menino, who recruited a bunch of good-looking prospects for us during his lone year at UNO last season. And then he went to Miami and he took a bunch of them with him.
Yeah. And there's clearly bad blood between the two teams.
There's bad blood between the coaching staffs for sure.
So I think we get the split. I think that moves us into a tie. With Colorado College, it still puts us at a decent position to. I don't know. Maybe we get lucky, and you end up with Western Michigan in third, and we have to go out there, Kalamazoo, and.
I don't
play
know.
them. That could be.
I don't know. After the weird crap on Twitter this weekend, I'm not sure I want to want to play them again. But you're right. That would probably be a good
I'd
matchup
almost rather
for
play
us.
Western Michigan than Denver.
Oh yeah,
I don't know why we're snake picking against Denver.
I'll tell you what. If it's a choice between Western Michigan or Denver, St. Cloud, or Duluth on the road, I'll go for Western Michigan.
Yeah.
Anytime.
So I think the way I would see it going is I think that Miami wins Friday and UNO wins on Saturday. I just think if UNO can go out and play the way that they played, I'm with you. Because if they play as well as they played against Western Michigan and Miami,
sure.
I don't see how I see how we don't come out of there with 2 wins and they wear black and white, but outside of that, we should be able to sweep them.
Yeah. But but we're cautious because that's a bold prediction for a team that's only won 1 game on the road this season.
Right.
And so I think that's a pretty sound. I think you're pretty right on potentially with that Saturday night, because a lot of times there's an adjustment for us on Friday night, and then Saturday night we tend to tighten the screws a little bit and team plays a little bit better.
We've talked about that. I don't know why we see a hard time to get going on Fridays. That's why I was really pleased with our play on Friday.
But I'm going to go with the sweep because it's been a long season for the players, the coaches, and the fans, frankly, and we could all use a good beat down of the Red Hawks.
Good 6 points would be
nice. Fantastic.
And fans can watch it on NCHC TV.
Yes, no, the Friday game is on CBS Sports. So because it's Saturday on CBS Sports, and this is one of the things with the NCHC, I wish that they would figure this out so that when the game's on CBS Sports, it's also on the NCHC TV package, because we're paying for that package, and I'd like to be able to watch it like we do some of the Fox Sports Midwest ones that they've shown, right. Fox Sports North or whatever it is, that are on the NCHC package. So yes.
Well, that probably has to do with the difference between a regional and a national.
Yeah, probably. So
CBS
Sports Friday.
CBS Sports app, you can get it on there.
Yeah, and let me look. I think that Friday game it's earlier than you would.
It's 5:35.
Okay, so it's 5:30. Yeah, 5:30, 5:38.
8
Central Time. Yes, 5:38 Central Time.
People can sing the national anthem faster. Come on.
So that's an early game. You're going to have to hop up from work early and come home and watch that. So.
Yeah.
And before we go, I would like to thank our podcast listener, our loyal listener, Aaron Bradenkamp, who had a tailgate outside of Baxter Arena on Saturday night. And he posted a picture and said, I'm tailgating and listening to the Mavpuckcast. And he's told me before how much he enjoys the podcast and he looks forward to it as kind of a, getting him ready for the games every weekend. So I really appreciate that. I don't think people understand how much work it goes into this, us coordinating our schedules and coming up with times and working around work and family
and the research that we do to make sure that we're prepared for the week and what we're going to talk about and really
trying to sound knowledgeable and reasonable.
And thinking about what the fans would want to hear. We talked about this off podcast about how we're not the type of podcast that's overly technical. No. We're not deep into systems and that stuff. We really like hearing from the fans and stuff that they enjoy the type of content, and it's really just an opportunity for us to take a look at things in a different perspective. And
we just want to give the point of view of the fans, and hopefully people will gain some insights and gain some knowledge. And that's what I've learned a lot doing the podcast with you this season. I've really appreciated it because you bring a different perspective as a fan to the game than I do. You've played hockey, you've coached hockey, you grew up in a different state, so you have the perspective of watching those teams. So it's been really fun for me, and I've learned a lot this season, and that's what I enjoy about this podcast, and I enjoy about doing the stuff on Mavpuck. It's all about understanding college hockey and understanding the UNO hockey program a little bit better, because a lot of times there isn't a lot of information out there for us to consume. So that's why we wanted to bring you this podcast, and that's why we enjoy doing it every week. So
we really appreciate him listening, before the game and stuff, and donations of pulled pork and alcohol would be acceptable.
Yes, in clear plastic bags.
In clear plastic bags.
Not bigger than 8 inches by 12 inches or... So it may have to be a series of clear plastic bags. But if you are like Aaron and you enjoy this show and you'd like to go back and listen to back episodes, you can find links to all of those on Mavpuck.com. And it's not even links. They're embedded on there. So it's really nice. You can just click play.
Yeah.
And it's ready to go. We really appreciate the clicks. We're, we don't make money on this, so we're motivated by statistics. So we appreciate it when you come and listen and, give us positive feedback. And if you'd like to follow us at any of our social media channels, Facebook, Twitter, I can't guarantee it's, won't be a complete dumpster fire when we're talking about stuff, but we try to have fun and we try to bring you the fan perspective. And this is the program we love. And as always, go Mavs.
Go Mavs.